Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Haolonggood release, and as you can see, we've got ourselves the 1/35th scale Maiasaura, and this one is extremely exciting because we don't have very many Maiasaura models. I can't really think of more than just a few. The one that comes to mind most significantly would be the old Safari LTD version, but I can't really think of too many others that are really popping up in my mind right now. I think maybe there was a Happy Net version, potentially. I can't really recall. Either way, this set looks awesome, and look at the colors on the box. Man, are the colors of these ever flashy. We often get some pretty interesting paint schemes and color schemes from Haolonggood, but they may be taking it to new heights if the figures are actually colored the way that they are here on the packaging. But I'm very intrigued to see them once we pop the box open. But you can see again on the front of the box, you've got the Haolonggood logo, the species name, the scale, and all of that fun stuff, as well as an image of the figures. Up here on the top, you can see some images of some other figures that are already released, which actually kind of leads me to believe that maybe the coloring of the box is a little off, because these are all very dark in comparison to what they actually look like. But again, the Haolonggood logos on the sides, and then the same image on the other side, and the same information that we usually have on the underside. And the other box is going to be pretty much the same, doesn't look like it's any different. So let's pop these boxes open and check them out. So there is our Maiasaura family, and shockingly, my one baby is missing. I don't know why. I opened the package and it is just not here. So for some reason, my baby Maiasaura from one of the two here, I think it was the green one actually, it's missing the baby. So I guess I'll have to contact Haolonggood or Lana Time Shop or someone about that. I'm sure they'll hook me up with the baby, and I will let you guys know at a later date once I do get the baby. But at least we have a chance to take a look at one of the two different versions of the infant Maiasaura. But I will say they both look fantastic. Again, the paint jobs of Haolonggood are honestly getting better and better, and the fact that they continuously include the dark wash on their newer figures is just such a really nice addition to these. It just adds so much realism to the coloration, I think, and the realism to the figure. But as a whole, these look just gorgeous at first glance, so let's jump to a closer look and check them out from there. So starting with the more colorful variant of the Maiasaura, which I would think is probably the male, you can see here in the head is absolutely awesome when it comes to the fine detail. The skin texture looks great, especially right there as you get closer to the beak. You can see, a good bit of like wrinkling and creasing in the skin. You can also see the nostrils right there. As you move back to the eye socket, you can see a little bit of wrinkling in the eye socket as well. Really nice paintwork as we have a lighter tone for the face. As we move up here into the top of the head, we have some darker tones, kind of like a dark gray here, but then we have purplish tones on the top of the head. You can see a little hint of like an orangish red tone on the top of the head right there. As you move out into the beak as well is colored really nicely, as we have the darker tones starting out here moving down into the beak, but then we have a lighter tone, almost like a kind of like an orangish tone, but like ever so slightly. It's like hard to really, actually maybe it's more of like a pinkish tone as you move down into the beak. The paintwork is just really nice. That's basically what I need to say. It's super nicely done and very realistically applied, and you can see some nice cracks and crevices and everything in fine detail within the beak as well. This already may be one of my favorite painted Haolonggood figures so far. As per usual with Haolonggood, we often get blue eyes. We do have blue eyes yet again with a nice black pupil. They also have a nice gloss coat, which you can see them shining right there. As you move down to the underside, you can see a lighter tone moving down along the throat of our Maiasaura. You can also see a good bit of wrinkling and creasing as you move down closer to the chest. We've got some really nice patterning as you move down. As you can see, we've got the purplish tones, but you have a darker variation of like a purple mixing with a dark gray, it looks like, that stripes down and patterns through. We also have a greenish tint to the figure as we continue to move along. You can see that striping effect becomes a lot larger as you follow into the body a little more. You can see some rows of like osteoderms following along the upper part of the neck, but as you lead down into the body, the osteoderms sort of taper away, but you do see like some large kind of ridges moving along the back of the dinosaur here. They seem to vary in size quite a bit as they move through. I also love love this orangish tone that we transition to from the purple moving down along the back. That is so nice looking and is just extremely smooth when it comes to the transitions back and forth between colors. As you move down into the front leg, you can see the scale detail looks phenomenal. You can also see lots of wrinkling increasing to the skin all the way back from the back behind the leg there, up here closing in on the shoulder blade area, which you can see the shoulder here kind of protruding from the skin, and then moving down closer into the elbow and everything. The detailing looks really nice. It looks like they've also sort of dry brushed some of the scale detail here out as you move down, and it looks really nice. We also transition to a darker tone, like almost like a dark gray, but then it also transitions to like a bluish tone as you move down into the foot of the Maiasaura as well. So there is definitely no shortage of paintwork on this one. We even have more of that patterning, that kind of striping effect moving down into that front leg. Moving back into the stomach, you can see how the skin is stretching here because both legs are held, away from each other here with the walking motion that we have currently going on. So you can see the skin stretching off of the rear part of the stomach as well. Tons of wrinkles and everything back here. The dark wash again continues to really nicely tie all of the coloration together. If you look up here on the top, you can see the hip bone. You can also see how the orange starts to taper away into a purplish tone, again moving out into the tail. We've got tons of really nice skin detail moving down into the thigh, and you can see it here in the back of the thigh all the way around here toward the knee. We have more of that striping effect leading down, and again when you get nice and close you can see how crazy impressive this scale detail is on this figure. You've got a really nice bulging calf muscle. The dinosaur is currently in a position of like a walking motion here, as you can see the toes picking up off of the ground as this leg is about to take a step forward. We again transition to like that bluish tone moving down to the foot. The foot looks really nicely done. The nails as well are sculpted quite nicely. And then we lead back up. You've got a few more wrinkles back here behind the thigh and hip region leading into the tail. You can see the ridges start to decrease in size. You can also see the purple overtaking most of the tail, but we still have a striping effect leading out into the tail as you lead through. You can see more of the orangish tones here, really nice and subtly applied to the underside of the tail. And again, you lead out, you've got a really nice curve to the tail as you lead out, and the ridges continue to decrease in size as you lead out there toward the tail. You can see that striping effect here on the underside. As we move back, we've got the cloaca present, and again the dark wash is really nicely applied down here, but kind of more subtle, I would say, as far as the application, but it looks really good as you move along. And of course you're going to see the same thing on the opposing side, except for on this side we have the legs closer together, again showing the walking motion for our Maiasaura as it's moving along, kind of looking like maybe it's hurting somewhere. We've got the ear back here behind the head. The paintwork for the eye looks really nice, and again as you lead through, it all looks just as awesome on this side as it did on the initial side. Same patterning, same paintwork. The skin wrinkles of the stomach are a lot more abundant over here though, because the leg is kind of pushing, the rear leg is pushing into the stomach, bunching that skin up. Same deal actually behind the front leg as well. But it is an absolutely incredible Maiasaura. So when you go from, almost a Maiasaura drought to this, like, talk about jumping into one of the best Maiasaura you could possibly have adding into your collection. And of course the other one is the exact same sculpt, no difference in the sculpt, just different paint apps. And what I like about this is this one's actually very different from the other one. A lot of the time when you have two different paint variants from Haolonggood, you'll have the same kind of type of patterning and stuff, and seeing color scheme with different tones, whereas this one is very different because we have like a purplish tone here for the face, blue eyes again though, and kind of like a dull sort of like a mixture of a brown and maybe some grays here for the beak. Actually, maybe even some greens. It's hard to tell. There's just so much color added to these figures. You can see a green moving over the top of the head as you lead down. You have like a variation of like an orangish brown that picks up and falls along the spinal column a little bit, but it doesn't, really tread down here into the body too far. It just kind of falls along the spinal column. But as you move through, you can see some really nicely and very, very subtle blues showing up here. And it doesn't really look like it's kind of like, it's hard to tell if it's really striping through. It's just really nicely blended together. It looks super, super cool. You can see an incredibly smooth transition to the lighter tone here of the stomach, which also has kind of like some orangish tints to it. As you move down into the front leg, you can see the nice mixtures of blues and greens. But when I tell you that bluish tone is subtle, it is as subtle as it could possibly get. We do darken again to a darker tone for the feet, similar to what we had on the first version. Same deal for the rear leg as well. And again, you can see those orangish tones following along the back of the thigh and calf area as you move through, you see more again of those like slight bluish tones. I don't even know how good they're picking up on camera. They're definitely very obvious here in person, but they are just so incredibly subtle, making it look extremely realistic, honestly. And you see more of that as you move out into the tail, but we do transition to an orange as we lead out into the tip of the tail, and we have pretty much the same thing as the other one going on the underside, where we have like a slight hint of the orangish tone. And again, really nice mixtures of color. Like even on this one, where for the most part you look at it and there's not a whole lot going on, when you really get nice and close and analyze it, like there is actually a lot going on when it comes to the variation of color and the paintwork and everything applied. There is a ton, and you can see the nails are painted with a black, which was a little hard to make out on the other one because the feet were so dark. But this one, the feet are dark, but not darker than the black, so you can see the actual paintwork of the nails a little bit better. But again, the same style of paintwork as you move through, with the really nice blending of the light blue and greenish tones. So again, I would think this would probably be more of the female, but it's equally as impressive as the other one. And then we've got the baby, and the baby looks super happy as it's just kind of running along. This baby has like a pinkish sort of a tone, like almost like a pinkish purple. It's like a hard tone of color to really establish, but you can see we again have the blue eyes just like we usually do. Seems like almost a little bit of a lighter tone of blue for this one though. As you lead up into the beak, you've got a brown for the beak, and again the beak does feature some really nice detail, which my camera doesn't really want to focus on it, but just like the adults, it does have some very nice fine detail. We do have the nostrils sculpted out right there. The mouth is closed on this one just like we saw on the adult. The ear is sculpted out right there, and you can see the head is turned ever so slightly to its right. As you move back, you start to pick up like a striping effect. Following along the body, you have a little variation of color though. As you lead back, you have like this sort of like off-white tone that picks up and stripes through the side of the body very, very briefly, just in like the hip region, which you don't really see too much elsewhere. Oh, you kind of do actually. You sort of see it running along the lower part of the tail right here, following along the thigh as well as right here, but there are actually some other tones of color in there. I can actually see like slight hints of orangish tones as well, which again, so much paintwork on these figures. Even for the baby, there's a good bit of paintwork. The only thing I'm noticing that this one's kind of missing that I would have actually liked to have seen is the dark wash, but at the same time kind of gives this one like the feeling of being a fresh, brand new version of a Maiasaura, which also helps to add to the baby aspect of this figure, whereas the other ones are a little bit older, a little bit dirtier. This one's nice and squeaky clean, I guess, but you can see this one's in kind of like a galloping position where it looks like it's sort of playing, and it would look really cool if I had the other one to have playing with it. But you can see how the legs are kind of extended out. We have all of the skin details shown off as far as like the skin stretching and stuff from both legs really nicely. Almost the same thing going on over here, except the legs are in a slightly different position compared to what we saw on the initial side. And we do darken to the tip of the tail to the same color that we have the striping, like a very dark, I don't even know, like a brown, I guess, maybe, that you can see here. Again, we transition to on the tail. You can also see some orangish tones here for the underside of our baby. And yes, even the cloaca is present on the baby, which you can kind of see right there. But honestly, overall, again, another really nice figure from Haolonggood. Even the baby is absolutely fantastic. As far as the size goes, for the adult, we only need to measure one because it would be the same size. About 9 inches or 23 centimeters in length. The highest point would be the back, about 2 3/4 inches or just shy of 7 centimeters. For a height on the baby, I think the head might actually be the tallest point. So you are looking at a little over 1 1/4 inches or closing in on 3.5 centimeters, but not quite there. Or lengthwise about 4 1/4 inches or a little under 11 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A Human Being next to our Haolonggood Maiasaura. And you can see, even though the proportions are definitely a bit off when it comes to like the length and stuff, the Maiasaura is actually fairly similar in size to the Attack Pack Colovosaurus. So if you do happen to have that figure, you'll have a pretty decent idea of the size of this Maiasaura. And then for a comparison with another Haolonggood release that is very similar in size to the Maiasaura, you can see the Telatolophus here next to the Maiasaura, which honestly, looking at the Telatolophus next to the Maiasaura, like, the figure previously from Haolonggood was really nice, but I can just see a drastic upgrade in quality on the newer version here, this Maiasaura. It's really impressive to watch Haolonggood continue to grow the way that they are. We also have a comparison with the Haolonggood Megaraptor next to their Maiasaura, just to continue to give you an idea of the size if you happen to have that Megaraptor. We also have a comparison here with the Haolonggood Edmontosaurus, which fairly recently released and was a very popular release as well from Haolonggood, so one that you may have in your collection. And then next to one of the Safari Ltd Maiasaura, you can see it is a little bit beefier than our Haolonggood version. We've also got the other version of the Maiasaura from Safari Ltd, which obviously the Haolonggood version is definitely superior than every other Maiasaura we've seen so far, but you can see they're kind of similar in size. And then somehow earlier I forgot about the Batat version of the Maiasaura, which I just remembered now about, but you can see the Haolonggood version of that as well is extremely similar to the size range of the Batat version, so that one would fit nicely in with a full collection of Maiasaura. The Batat version fits in nicely as far as the size goes with the Haolonggood version. So these brand new Haolonggood Maiasaura are gorgeous, both of them. In fact, I'm sure the other baby is as well. Once I get that one in my hands, I will definitely let you guys know, but this is an absolute total win. The sculpts of both of these are honestly some of the best sculpts that I've seen from Haolonggood so far. They really are one of the most highly detailed and impressive sculpts they've released, and it's also on, luckily, one of the most impressive species I think they've released, because if there's definitely a species of dinosaur out there I would love to see more of, the Maiasaura is it. It's a fairly popular dinosaur, I feel like, and it's surprising that there just aren't really that many figures out there for it. But the sculpt is really nicely done, as I mentioned. The pose is really nicely done, as it's just kind of walking along, and it has the younger versions there kind of following along, playing, which I really like as well. The paint jobs of both are fantastic. There's definitely the superior version, which I think is the male. It's obviously more colorful, just generally nicer to look at and really gorgeous overall, but the female version, what I would say is the female version, is also really nice. I love the way that the colors are kind of blended together, and it just looks extremely natural and realistic overall. But on top of that, the baby, I would say, is just as nicely done as the adults and is the perfect addition to the overall scene you can portray with your herd of Maiasaura. So if you are interested in picking these up for yourself, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that on Lana Time Shop. So make sure you check that link in the description. Go grab these gorgeous figures and like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.